Good evening, everyone. My name is JON CALLEGHER, and I want to be your viable candidate for change at City Hall in this election. I'm a professor at George Brown College, just down the street on King. I was the past president and vice president of Caroline Cooperative Homes. I live in a co-op, and I've seen the benefits when people of all incomes and backgrounds live together. And I wrote and helped to write organizational bylaws and occupancy bylaws. I want to be your candidate for change. My main issues for you are addressing the homelessness situation, local traffic congestion, and affordable and transitional housing. These are very, very important, and I think I can be a strong voice for those of you, because I'm also your neighbor down the street. Thank you very much, and thank you to the organizers.
My name is George Smitherman, and it's a privilege to be here, to be back here. I want to ask you to consider me when it comes to your vote. I have a track record in this community. I have helped to build this community with powerful people, many of whom are in this room. From the roots of Pathways to Education to the redevelopment, I did my part alongside other people, and I'm proud of the progress that's been made. But I also recognize, both in phases 4 and 5, which remain incomplete and have many risks to their completion, and also with the circumstances of poverty and violence, which remain too much a reality here, I want to dedicate myself, as I did, to helping to champion Pathways to Education, to use my new energies as a father and the inspiration that that brings to help to do a better job to support our kids. People talk about youth programming and such, but I believe fundamentally, in many cases, we're waiting too long and ignoring risk factors. I want to help support those kids earlier on and make our community safer. Thank you ever so much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is GLADYS LARBIE. You can find my platform online on my website. I am running for City Council in this election because I feel the need for change in this ward particularly. I was homeless, and the ward was able to put me in transitional housing, and I feel that I owe it to the community and the services that I relied on when I was homeless to give back and to do better. So if you want more information, you can see on my website. Thank you.
My name is KRISTYN Wong Tam, and I'm a city councilor who happens to represent Ward 27, just on the other side of Sherbourne. And Ward 27 and Ward 28 have been ward cousins for a very long time. And as I stand here tonight, I recognize that we are here amongst a community of very powerful people and organizers. My own story in Toronto began in 1975, right here in this neighborhood, but not the new Regent, but rather the legacy Regent. And it's an honor to actually be back in the community, and this time seeking your support for this upcoming election. There's some big significant issues, of course, facing every single one of our communities, and I look forward to having a heartful and an honest discussion about what those solutions could be, and I look forward to hearing from you as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is WALIED KHOGALI, and I'm a proud resident of this community for a very long time. I just noticed my mom come in. She just lives around the corner. My family actually has grown up in Regent Park. We've been living here since 2005. I'm not a career politician. I'm actually a community organizer. I've been helping residents of this beautiful community for over a decade. And I want to be your next city councilor for the following reasons. I want to make sure that the tax on the poor, specifically through TTC fares, end. Too many of us cannot continue to be taxed more in TTC fares. We need to move towards a fare-free based model so that we can unlock the economic benefits of making sure that we have no barriers to accessible transit. The other reason is I am committed to making sure that we have a pathway to home ownership. Many folks living in this community are living precariously, and we want to make sure that we actually move forward by committing to housing as a right. Thank you.
I'm Megan Wilson. I'm on the leadership team of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, so I know many of you who are here today. You know that my platform is centered on housing and poverty eradication. Housing is the #1 problem we have here in the city, whether that is transition housing for people to be able to get to housing when they've been in the shelter system, whether it is mental health supports around housing so that they don't end up going back on the streets and needing to be put back in the housing cascade again. That's where we need to start. We also need to focus on transit. We need to focus on active transportation so that people can get around and get to where they're going, whether that's to go to school, to work, or to play. I'm looking forward to working with all of you as your next city councillor here in Regent Park. My name is Megan Wilson.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Troisi, and I've had the privilege of serving you as your city councillor for the last 10 months. I was born and raised in Regent Park with 12 brothers and sisters, and so this is where my passion has been. I was also a community organizer for 30 years with Parks, Forestry, and Recreation, and when I left in 2011, I continued to participate in Regent Park. I was on the board of directors of the Regent Park Community Health Board, and I chaired the Pathways to Education Trust. One of the things that every neighborhood in this entire ward is telling me is that their neighborhood has become very unsafe. And so my entire platform is about neighborhood safety. We should not have to endure any more gun violence, and there's all sorts of other issues that are creating a lot of violence in our neighborhoods. So neighborhood safety is my priority. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Richard Forget. I'm a bilingual lawyer who also happens to be vegan, and I want to bring my experience and my skills to City Hall to get the right things done. I don't like it when I see these mega condos, for example, going up and nothing for affordable housing. I would want to impose on the developers that they provide 10% of the units for affordable housing in order to get a building permit. And by affordable housing, I'll be straightforward, I mean $750 for a one bedroom or $1,000 for a two bedroom. Because if somebody is earning minimum wage or is on CPP, old age security, ODSP, that's about all what they can afford. I thank you very much for your attention. I'll be delighted to answer your questions later.
Hi, my name is Rob Wolvin, and I'm running for City Council, obviously. I'm the third generation of my family to live in what is now Toronto Centre. I'm more from the north end of the ward. I'm a former small business owner. I owned a pub on Yonge Street. I lived in Vancouver for half of my adult life, where I was an activist primarily for the LGBT community. I'm running for City Council because I feel as though we have unfettered development. I feel as though there's condos going up all over the place, and we're not taking advantage of that wealth and that energy to affect positive change in the communities in which they're built. So I would like to see a city council that works together, not a blue team versus orange team that hate each other, but Team Toronto that talk to each other and find solutions to the affordable housing and the violence and the congestion that is plaguing our city.
Hi there, my name is CATHERINA PEREZ. I've been living in Ward 13 for now 18 years, and I also have a business on Queen Street for 10 years, which has been running successfully. But that's not why you should vote for me. You should vote for me because there's no difference between all of you here and myself. I'm a member of our community who wants what's right for our neighborhood. As some of you know, the main focus of my campaign is to eradicate homelessness. I know, it's an ambitious goal, but it's one close to my heart. Today, my 4 children and I live in our balloon store because we were uprooted from our own home. Not being able to take care of the very basic needs of our citizen is an embarrassing reflection of the state of our community. People complain about the homeless, but nobody cares. Is this who we are? I don't want my children to grow up in a neighborhood where there are shootings taking place on the route home or drugs being sold on our street. I'm a single parent, tired of worrying about issues related to safety. These are real issues. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Barbara LaVoie, and there's 3 issues that I'm mainly concerned about. Affordable housing, better transit with less congestion, and lowering the crime rate. In other words, HTC, not THC. We all need to work together because that's what makes a great city. I encourage everybody to give me ideas because I want to be a public servant and serve the public the best that I can. So I'm running in this ward. My name is Barbara LaVoie, the way to a better Toronto. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Aftab Turan, and
and I'm the successful business owner in this Ward 13 from last 30 years. And I have a store on Sherburne and Dundas and one Oak and River, so I'm proud Regent Parker. And I have faced the problem. I have seen with my eyes, like I have done personal experience, how the people come and what are the problems of the people, especially the youth problem, gun violence, how they get involved and how they could be saved. And I have seen the people who come to my store, which, they are facing the poverty. I have seen the people who are seniors. We are ignoring the seniors. Seniors are our, who build the Canada, and we are here. We need respect and we need the resources for the seniors. So we have a lot of different plans, but please vote for me. After Puram, please vote. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jordan Stone, and my website, votestone.ca, if you ever have time to check it out. One of my big pet peeves is career counselors. We all want change. We all want affordable housing. We all want crime to stop. And we all know how to do it. And almost every candidate here on the stage has ideas that will work. We can't have real change unless we have new people on council. So I would really just reach out to everybody to take us a little extra time and check out all of these candidates, well, including myself. Because if you really want something to change, you have to have new people. You will get mailings and postcards about promises and pie in the sky, but you hear this 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, 20 years ago in some cases. You need new people, and we're all here for you.
Hi there, my name is Brian Lester. I live down the street at Sherburne and Dundas for the last 8 to 10 years or so with my husband. And like you, I am looking for change in our representatives at City Hall. I've seen what a combative relationship can do between our current councillor and the mayor, and I think that's costing us opportunity. I'm currently the Senior Director at the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, and prior to that I worked at EGAL Canada, where I led the team to raise the first $10 million to build the city's first, and the country's only really, transitional housing facility to combine counseling and emergency and transitional housing that's dedicated to LGBT youth in this city, right around the corner actually, near Pembroke and Dundas. I've stabilized the finances at citywide nonprofits like the AIDS Committee of Toronto as their treasurer and at Pride Toronto, and I want to bring that same fiscal responsibility to the city budget. Thank you.
My name is John Jeffrey. I used to live at Gerard and Sackville a few years ago, and I've been living in the downtown core for the last 40 years. Over this time, I've seen a deterioration in the livability and condition of the city. We need to turn this around. Neighborhoods need to be strengthened and made more livable. Streetscapes need to be improved for the benefit of all users. Community centers and community resources need to be increased. We need to give hope and resources to those who desperately need them. We need to be innovative with developing low-cost affordable housing. New developments need to pay for upgrades to the city systems that support them. Under the new 25 ward model, we will likely need to develop and support neighborhood councils. We need to create a city where all residents can live with dignity.
Hi there, I'm DARREN Abramson. I left Toronto in 1999 to get my PhD, and I became a professor at Dalhousie University, and I'm back 20 years later to take care of my elderly father who's in hospital. So I've been here for about 6 months doing that. Now the Toronto I found when I got back is richer, much, much richer than the Toronto that I left. And at the same time, poverty is much, much worse. This is unacceptable. I ran because people in poverty and homeless people asked me to so that we could solve these problems. Let me tell you something. Homelessness, affordable housing, poverty, and violence are not separate issues. We will solve these issues together. I have very concrete, specific proposals to do so, and I'd like to tell you why my experience suits me for accomplishing this. I want to be your candidate.
Thank you for your question. I think the question is in regard to affordable housing and Toronto community housing. As your elected city councillor, I will work hard to ensure that more investment is poured into Toronto community housing to make sure that not only making repairs, but also being preventative, and especially making sure that all units are well maintained in terms of heating and cooling. There's a lot of problems in that area. But also broadly, we need to build more affordable housing and traditional housing around Toronto, including in the Portlands. So we don't have to keep building in this downtown, we can build adjacent to it. And the Portlands are a great place for development, and we should prioritize the development of affordable and transitional housing and build the transportation networks to accompany it. Thank you for your question.
We are backlogged in repairs from TCH, and I think that the best way going forward is by having all three levels of government properly fund the repairs. The city also has a lot of unused land as well as abandoned homes. I've done some research in Detroit, Michigan. They have a project called Tiny Homes, where it's about $15,000 to build one home, small homes. That's easily for something that people can do, like rent a home and things like that. So I'm looking into different ways that we can implement building new homes that are a lot cost effective than what's usually suggested. And we basically have to look at alternative ways to actually get things done, because I know, yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk about two issues that I really deeply care about, and I know a lot of community members feel the same way, because I've been knocking on doors since May, and I know this resonates. So, specifically transit. I am sick and tired of our politicians arguing about how much we should pay for TTC fares. I want to end this tax on the poor, most marginalized members of society, and I want us to move towards a fare-free base model, such as cities like Calgary, but also countries such as Norway and other developed countries. And being a co-founder of TTC Riders, I know the funds exist. We spend so much money building our transit, but we're asking the most impoverished members of society to pay for its operations. So I will work with the provincial government and federal government to make sure that happens. With regards to housing, I'm going to make it very quick. We cannot live in this era of precarity. So many folks want access to housing, and I actually have a plan. Please visit votewali.ca for more details. Thank you.
One of the things that I do not like about council is hearing politicians talk about the issue of housing affordability, the waiting list. I actually have a solution. The City of Toronto has the most real estate in the entire city. Why are we not building at least 4 stories on every library, on every daycare, on every community center, and every subway station, citywide? And that would get rid of the waiting list of 10 years. It's cheaper than a shelter, it's cheaper than a hostel, and it's cheaper than a respite site. So that's a great solution, and I think that's something planning is going to start looking at, because we do have real estate to build on. Thank you.
I'm not aware that there are any candidates in this ward that are calling to close TCHC. And if there are, I think we should call them out on that, because I would not be in favor of something like that. I do, however, believe that we can't buy our way out of this crisis. And the idea that the city has a responsibility to build affordable housing, well, how much money do we have? And how many housing are we going to get? And if you say that we can have 10,000 affordable housing in the next 5 years, that's not even a drop in the bucket compared to the waiting list. So I think, number one, the emphasis has to be on putting the money into repairing the units that we actually have, so that that would have thousands more freed up for affordable housing. Then I think that we need to work with developers to ensure that development is done in a manner that actually helps get more affordable housing. For instance, why don't these towers have more 3-bedroom units? A group of singles could live more affordably in a 3-bedroom unit. Families could live in those 3-bedroom units. What about more 2-bedroom units, a senior with a care worker?
There's many city-owned buildings that have been lying dormant for over 20 years. I was looking at the statistics the other day. Why has the city council over the last 20 years not accessed these buildings? as the Housing Connections list is at like 70,000 plus now. So that's what I would bring into play. Get these buildings open, they're not run down, do what little renovations need to be done, and get people housed. Get the homeless housed first. I'm tired of seeing people at Young in College that are strung out on drugs. If you look at my website, vote Barbara LaVoie, Ward13.com, you'll see my plan. Because addiction, homelessness, and, sorry, I forget the other thing, it's on my site, they go hand in hand. And they can be solved collectively together. Thank you.
There's actually 3 ways to do it, and it's not rocket science. The first way is you have to have a councillor elected, hopefully one of us new people, who doesn't have a vested interest. I'm not going to go into any details about our councillor's real estate background, but when you have a councillor who doesn't have a vested interest, you're going to see something other than just condos being built. Number 2, you give tax incentives to developers because they're ready to build and they can build fast. You give them tax breaks from the city, and you will watch a lot of apartments going up. When there's more apartments, there's more competition, prices go down. Third, you have to not have pet projects. We just lost $100 million with the Moore Moss Park, which nobody wanted. Our councillor got $100 million from the city to redevelop something which is perfectly fine if used in every capacity. When you have that money in the city, because it's there, and you use it for the community, you can see consolidate.
It's not a single solution to the problem. Actually, everybody had a good idea here tonight. There are many ideas. One of the other simple ideas would be just to remove a lot of the zoning red tape, to make the planning process a lot easier, to look at the neighborhoods that are single-family dwellings at the moment, and be able to allow conversions to multi-family dwellings, to be able to create apartments and duplexes and triplexes in parts of the city where it may be at the moment prohibited. So cutting out red tape, making the process easier, and making it cheaper for people to actually make the changes, as well as everybody else's ideas.
To me, the issue around safety has got to be linked with health and equity and inclusion. And in this particular case, I would actually talk about the income inequality, oftentimes that puts out the perception of what is unsafe. What really is truly offensive to me is actually poverty. It's actually racism, it's structural racism, and it's all the things that actually creates this system that oppresses one group versus another. And so we have resilient communities that are really ready to lift themselves up, but the system itself and government has not responded, which is one of the reasons why I actually am running in public office, because I actually want to do better by that, and I want to make sure that communities have opportunities to be successful, and we have to raise the cost of wages so that we can actually keep people housed, give people economic opportunities that they deserve. Thank you very much.
The first thing that we need to do is not demonize people or separate people and suggest that someone who lives in one building is less deserving of safety in their home and their environment than someone else who lives in the community. The second is we're throwing money at policing, and it's not about how much or how many officers, but as George said, it's how they're deployed. So how and who we are using. We've had neighborhood officers and we've seen them make great strides in creating relationships with kids and youth in the neighborhood. We're asking for more complement of that. Cops in cars don't solve the problems, and they don't build relationships. They don't create a place where our kids feel safe and they feel they can speak with an officer. We need to be doing more of that, more creating relationships, and less of sending out people in cars who are here to police us.
I could say for sure that putting more money in policing, surveillance videos, that doesn't eradicate the crimes or stop the criminal cycle. Where you have a problem with crime in the communities when groups are left out, when you're creating poverty, when you have disenfranchised groups. The city, instead of video surveillance on every corner, has to put that money in the community And when it comes a time for procurement of city services and products, give those contracts to the groups that normally do not have a fair chance of getting a contract in the first place. That's how you're going to make sure that everybody moves ahead and prospers together. But when we disregard a single group in our society, that's where we have a problem. Thank you.
Safety is a huge issue in our area. And as a mother, it's huge for me. And I'm sure for many parents here it is as well. The police are there. And we need a counselor that can work with the police and make sure that the job is properly done. I've volunteered with the CPLC for several years in the past. And I know that the communication between the community and the police is vital. Another solution to this is also with children. And my children have used services here, and we need to encourage groups that are there for the children, organizations that are there, and make sure that we change the mindset of the children from the base up, so that they don't follow into gangs and drugs that are there. Another solution I have as well is to encourage businesses to be on facing streets. More businesses equals safety on our streets. Thank you.
I'm facing a lot of these kind of things with the gun violence by myself. I have the experience. The thing I experienced, like the investing on the police, it's a lot better if we involve the youth, if we involve the residents over there, and one community, like they are treating like a second-class citizen, so they should not be treated like a second-class citizen. The problem starts from the beginning when the kids are on the grade 7 or 8. If we feel they have some problem, we should engage them, we should give them the training instead of throwing them out. And what happened, like when they are thrown out, they are on the street, and on the street there is an easy target for this gun violence. So we should start treating them from the grade 6 or 7, and we should take care of them. Sorry.
I don't believe that it's an either-or proposition when it comes to involving police in solving the issues of safety in our community. And frankly, I think that it is essential that we have the police at the table and have conversations of collaboration so that we can figure out what is working and what is not working and work together to make our community more safe. I don't discount for a second the role that poverty and unemployment and a lack of opportunity play in this, which is why I signed the TO Prosperity Pledge in August that was unanimously passed by the last City Council, calling for 7,200 supportive housing units, over 1,000 shelter spaces, and new childcare spaces. Let's not kid ourselves. We are on track to have the highest murder rate in over a decade. And I think that addressing the solution from a two-pronged approach where we have investment in longer and medium-term goals is essential to having shorter-term goals that involve collaborative efforts with the police. Thank you.
In my last gig, I was the president of the Dalhousie Faculty Association, and I entered into collective negotiations, and my go-to, the one thing I'm invested the most energy into was an analysis of how Dalhousie spends its budget to show that it was not meeting and not devoting resources to the goals of the institution. And I think the young man is correct to say, can we elect someone who will look at where the money is going, see why it isn't getting to the people who need it most, and correct it. I have a track record of doing this, and I will do this for issues of poverty in Ward 13, which, by the way, has some of the greatest inequality between rich and poor of any ward in the city of Toronto.